Well, most people don't know that when I was 3 and Tom was 4, that we were boyfriend and girlfriend in the preschool at our church. And my mom would come and pick me up and she'd say, "What did you do today?" And I said, "Well, I played with my boyfriend." And she said, "Well, who's your boyfriend?" And I'd say, "Tommy Stockdale." So we had a pretty strange relationship at an early age, and we really started believing that this was the person I wanted to marry, and he obviously wanted to marry me as well. So we had just really high expectations of what that marriage was going to look like, and how I thought he was going to be my knight in shining armor, and he was going to meet all of my needs, and he was going to be kind of just always there for me, always there to be able to give me what I felt like that I might need as a woman. And I think what we realized was that day that we married was that we both had come into our marriage with a lot of baggage.
For me, I brought in a lot of character defects that I had acquired from my family of origin, things that I tried to mask over. I learned how to lie real quick. I learned how to mask things over in my life, and just got into some behaviors that weren't real good.
I could deceive people, I could lie, I could pretend like I was somebody that I wasn't. And so Tom, he saw the best part of me, which wasn't really me. So we also, just standing before one another, just didn't realize the massiveness of our dysfunction. So for the first 8 years of our marriage, basically, in my selfishness, I did my thing, he did his thing, and we really were not emotionally connected at all. I had gotten involved in some adulterous relationships with other men, and Tom didn't know that, and so I started seeking out counseling, and I went to a counselor, and the Christian counselor that I went to, he said, "You know, you're going to have to tell Tom the things that you've been doing over the 8 years of your marriage." And so one day I left a note for Tom, and he came home for lunch, and in that note I explained to him what I had done and that I had committed adultery towards him, and I asked for his forgiveness. And so that evening we sat down and spent the whole evening just talking about the things that I had been involved in for those 8 years.
And what's crazy, she's telling me all these things that are going on, and I'm going, my gosh, it's time to come clean. And I started confessing at least 8 years of infidelity to her too.
But I think what we realized was that Christ was not in the center of our marriage, and that we had lived for ourselves for 8 years. And at that point, I think we made a choice, and the choice was that we were going to stay together, we were going to redo our vows in front of all 3 of our children, and that we were going to recommit our lives back together and have a new normal, a new start. It was hard. It was a couple of years of just grieving and trying to rebuild trust.
It takes a long time to build that trust back, and it doesn't take much for doubt to come into your mind again about that trust. You know, do I really trust her, or does she really trust me? And I know that's a consequence of the sin life that we lived for so long.
When Reengage first got started, we were asked to facilitate a small group, and again, Tom and I are very passionate about our marriage, and we thought, you know what, this would be a great way for us to reconnect with each other and also just pour into some young couples. And so when we started Reengage, we again realized that this was another curriculum or another tool that God started to use in our life to get us to communicate deeper with each other, to be able to ask some tough questions to each other that we hadn't asked maybe in a while, and to talk about some issues that maybe we haven't talked about for a while. So Reengage, going in as facilitators, became another tool that God used in our lives to enrich our marriage and to help us to learn how to communicate better with each other.
God has a plan for us, and we want to be used. We want our story to be used. as ugly and nasty and filthy as it was, it can be used in that. And that's, if God can change our marriage, He can help anybody. He can change any marriage.